Great news from Tom Trento, host of the daily WNN Trento Vision Show. Due to the unparalleled success of the Trento Vision Show, you now have an amazing opportunity to advertise on the Trento Vision Show. If you want more information about this excellent opportunity for your business, please contact Tom Trento at 561 319 5533, or you can email him, tom at trentovision.tv. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or tom at trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
All right, you can peek right in here, right in our little studio. We'll invite you right in today on Friday, December 7th, 2012, 6 minutes past 5 o'clock on the East Coast. But if you're one of our good friends on the West Coast of the United States, it's only 6 minutes after 2 o'clock. So you got 3 more hours than we have here. Funny how that works. But if you're our friends in Europe or Israel or out that way, we got 7 more hours than you do. You know, it's the way this thing works. We've been so involved in the issue of the day and with Frank and Mort and the others, but we've neglected to do the weather and the traffic. And Mike, you got outstanding raving reviews on your
traffic reports.
On your ongoing traffic reports.
Hold on a second.
Wait.
Use your mic.
Wait, and we have to do the weather first. The weather is in our studio here on the Beasley Broadcasting Company on the 100th floor of the Beasley Tower. Inside the Trento Vision studio, it is 77 degrees. A little warm in here, 77 degrees. But outside, what's it outside?
It's 76 with a couple cirrus clouds out there.
Oh, 76 with cirrus.
It's a calm and
cumulus.
sunny 76.
Calm 76.
It's a calm. And let's go to Mike now for the traffic.
Actually, no cars going by.
You could talk.
There's no cars today.
No cars today on Dixie Highway in Boca Raton, Florida, at 5:07.
Clear sailing on Dixie Highway.
At 5:07 in the afternoon. You're here with Tom Trento, your host, Trento Vision, and we're sending our love to CJ, who usually occupies the seat where disembodied Mark is now occupying. He's been embodied. He's usually
She's
over
not getting
there.
her seat back. Let her know.
You like your seat, right? I guess going to be fighting over the seat now.
No, CJ can have the seat back at any time she wants.
Be fighting in the studio, and as the little bit said on the way into the hour, if you are interested in, we're giving you an opportunity to advertise with us, so give us a call. We've been a little behind on some of our sponsors, Peter Feynman and BizPac Review and Tea Party Tribune and the Patriot Press, thepatriotspress.com, all those great organizations. They're all our friends. They're all working with us. Go there, do all the stuff, but we have a great guy on with us, but it is a special day, folks, and we've been starting both hours, and we're starting our third hour now with the recognition. All too often, people move so quickly, and that you hear a 10-second little statement on the news. This is an anniversary of something or other, some harbor, somebody got some pearls for their birthday or something. Well, it's Pearl Harbor Day, which was a day, as you're going to hear, that lives in infamy. And we wanted to start each hour with a short speech by a United States president that I've heard all my life, and every time I've heard it, it gives you chills. I don't have chills running up my leg, but it does give you chills. And I was not alive during the attack on Pearl Harbor, but nowadays you can go on the internet and look at some videos, and it takes you right back to those moments. I mean, there's color 8mm film, there's phenomenal documentaries that have been done that bring you right back to that moment. And then we have people like Mort. I don't know if Mort is still on the line, who was not only alive but enlisted at that time, and now has lived a phenomenal life with a very successful career, and now in retirement still serves his country by assisting organizations like ours, Allen West, people who are committed to the principles of America by using his talents, his artistic talents, his photography talents, and writing. He's a great writer. We put his stuff out. So on this day, we want to stop for a second and recognize and memorialize what took place 71 years ago, so that we learn the lessons necessary to fight this fight today. Listen to this.
Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. Indeed, 1 hour after Japanese air squadrons had commenced bombing in the American island of Oahu, the Japanese ambassador to the United States and his colleague delivered to our Secretary of State a formal reply to a recent American message. Japan has therefore undertaken a surprise offensive extending throughout the Pacific area. The facts of yesterday and today speak for themselves. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
Could Obama ever do that?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Righteous might. Franklin Delano Roosevelt used the term "with our righteous might." Both of those words necessitate a context and a foundation for their meaning. Righteous means you don't go to Cairo, Egypt on the 4th of June 2009 and apologize to the world, particularly the Islamic world, which has declared war, many within the Islamic world, against the United States. You don't go there and apologize and hope that you could ever use the word righteous as it refers to this nation once again, but somehow you got reelected. And might, forceful capability to kill and destroy the enemy, seems hard-pressed, notwithstanding some of the conflicting messages this president sends. I'll kill Al-Qaeda with drones, but it seems that this administration, which is why we put a radio station together to alert and awaken America to the failures on national security, both foreign and domestic, and it couldn't be more graphically illustrated, the failures of this administration and part of the Bush administration, as we've said, on a day like today, where 71 years ago this nation was attacked and responded, and words were used and beliefs implemented that seem such a thing of a distant past. I only hope and I pray that we can recapture some of that greatest generation. And we saw a little glimmer of it after 9/11. But in the 11 years that have passed, this country has changed so dramatically that we may not be able to regain the essence and character of a nation necessary to defeat a focused, committed, and difficult and dangerous enemy. But anyway, we got guys like Frank Wuko on the phone, on our Skype right now. You can look at, hey ladies, you're married though, Frank. You can see Frank on TrentoVision.tv. You can listen to him on WNN. And Frank is 23 years in the United States Navy, retired, then contracted back to the USG, the United States government. Much of Frank's work was in the area of intelligence, and then contracted back to the Central Command in Tampa, Florida, where a lot of good stuff takes place. You living over in Tampa right now, right, Frank?
I am. I do live in the Tampa Bay area still.
Okay. Could you define, I have several questions I want to ask you, and we'll put all of this together. You made a statement at the end of the last hour where many of the flag officers, the seriously enlisted guys, 25, 30, 35 years, looking at huge pensions, looking at seats on various board of directors at $100,000-$200,000 a year for 2 or 3 meetings. That's what they see. They may have had an illustrious combat career, but now in the twilight of that career, they're looking at some economic stability and economic enhancement. And they don't want to piss off the president. It's that simple. They're doing what they're told. And you questioned the oath they take. But Mark, our intrepid squid here, our Navy guy in here, checked out the oath. Mark, why don't you take a minute and tell Frank what you found?
Well, what's interesting, I actually happen to take both oaths of office, actually, one for officer and one for enlisted. And I noticed when I actually took them that they were different. And then I went and researched it. This is years ago, but I've always remembered this, is that the officers, the enlisted, take an oath to the Constitution, foreign and domestic, but I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and orders of the officer appointed over me according to the regulations of the UCMJ. The officer oath is different. The part about the President of the United States and orders officers appointed over me is not in the officer's oath. It is only I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, all enemies, foreign and domestic. They'll bear true faith and allegiance the same. They'll take this obligation without any reservation, purpose of evasion, and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon the office about to enter. So help me God. There is nothing in there that says I must obey the president. My oath only, simply, 100% is to the Constitution, regardless of the president.
Which is where some would argue the all enemies, foreign and domestic line comes into particular handy. But no, I appreciate you bringing that back to my attention. I had actually taken the officer's oath once when I became an ensign in the Navy, but I re-enlisted several times when I was an enlisted trooper, and that's the one that sticks in my mind. But that's a very important point you bring up. I would say that these officers still, despite that, and it's even more cause for them to examine the words of that oath. As you pointed out, Mark, and reminded me, it does not include the line to the president and the officers appointed over me, which is key.
Yeah, it's very key, very key.
Yeah, and many of them think that I've seen it happen so many times that, good God, we've got this, this guy from Chicago who came from Hawaii. He's been ambivalent towards the national security apparatus of the United States at best. He's hostile towards the history of the United States. He finds great shame in the actions and activities and meaning of this country. And yet he's our commander-in-chief.
Oh, God.
And you see them really leaning so far in the other direction to show that despite all their political disagreements, that our officers are apolitical and they're going to support the president no matter who he is. And again, this is where I say they have a tendency to forget that they're, even as his commander-in-chief, I mean, that is, you obey the lawful orders of the president. You obey the lawful orders of any senior officer, and that's it. But many of them have completely given up surrendered their bravery, their intellectual bravery and moral bravery long ago for the next star, for their political futures, and they have just they've had it stripped away from them.
And when I took the oath, and I remember the part that kind of stumbled me at the time is the domestic part. And when it said all enemies, foreign and domestic, and well, what enemies are domestic? And now I realize what those enemies are domestic, as you probably do now too. And that's the part that they had such forethought to put that part into the oath.
Absolutely, and this is a result of a governmental system that evolved from over a period of time that lasted several thousand years, going back to the Platonic and Aristotelian examinations of republican forms of government, and every rendition of it that went between those times and the founding of our country, where we had this group of men. And their wives supporting them very bravely get together and say, listen, we're going to do this. We are going to take this stand against Britain. We get one opportunity to do this and to get it right. And if we don't do it correctly, and that is correctly for now and all time, Lord knows when a country on earth will have this opportunity again. There has never been a more careful examination of a free republic in that form of government than the one that our founding fathers undertook, because their lives were at stake. And this is the message I think that we need to, start getting back out to people other than folks like us who, we agree with each other. We know that. We believe it. And our real charge now, our real challenge is to revitalize that message for people who don't understand it and for people who don't agree with it and don't get it. It's a real battle. We are in a major battle to win converts, and it shouldn't be as hard to do. But when we control none of the instruments of information, schools, universities, media outlets, movie studios, news agencies, it's very tough work.
Yeah, in fact, it's so tough. It's generational work. I mean, if we decided today we want to change all of those institutions, and an institution is an educational entity within a civilized structure, whether it's law, medicine, education, arts, theater, whatever. If we all decided magically today we can take our wand and go whoop and change things, it's going to take one generation, 20, 25, 30 years to raise a generation that's literate, raise a generation that knows what it means to pledge allegiance to a country, raise a generation that learns about history, raise a generation that has some moral fabric that is rooted in the Judeo-Christian worldview, which we built this country on. It may be too late for all of that, but we're going to figure all of that out and fight these battles. Let's get into a couple of items about you, though, Frank Wuko. You got a radio show on Sundays, 2 to 4, FW.
I'm giving away my intelligence officer friends again here by not being able to tell the difference between right and left. We're always the last people to find out things like that. So you go down all the way down to the bottom right-hand side of the screen, and you will see my smiling face beneath the lineup. Glenn Beck, Todd Schnitt, Hannity, Levin, and then me. I'm way down at the bottom, right where I belong. So you can click on that. That'll take folks right to my personality page.
Yep.
Which is where most of my personality can actually be found. And you search around that page and you'll find my podcast. All of our previous shows have been podcast. One of the features that would interest your audience for sure, and you guys, is that whenever there's a Islamic-inspired terror event, or perhaps with the arrest of these two fellows right here in Florida,
yes,
Sunday, you can expect to hear Fawad Wasul on the program. A feature that we run called Ask the Jihadist.
Okay.
And, it's very good stuff. It's very compelling, and the phone calls are interesting. And we bring Fawad right into the studio, and we put him on with. It's your chance to hear a committed jihadist speaking live on the radio.
Was that spooky or what today, Tom?
I have an idea. Maybe we could have Fawad Pastavazul do a guest appearance on the Trento Vision show once in a while.
I would recommend it, and I can probably arrange to
Okay.
have him.
We will arrange that, and we'll promote it very heavily, and we'll send out a big blast and do some social media stuff. We'll put that together, and that'll be good. That'll be a little
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
cross promotion. Now, from what I understand, also you got I don't know if you know, you have a Facebook page, and there's an interesting sort of juxtaposition. You're standing there with a bottle of beer in your hand as you launch a cruise missile off a destroyer. How does that work?
You'd be off screen. You don't know. I may just have a beer in my hand right now.
Yeah, right. And you're launching cruise missiles. So that's interesting. But you mentioned you were at Coronado, and what were you doing at Coronado, California?
I was lucky enough to be brought over to Coronado to be the intelligence department head for SEAL Team 1, and this was the time when Team 1 was when we deployed for Operation Desert Storm. So very interesting times there. I was it's one of the great privileges of my life, serving with our special warfare community. And it was a high privilege for me to finish out my Navy career with special
It's a
operations.
big honor. Big honor.
What year? What year?
They knew that I was they knew I was a Class A wannabe. That boy, I wanted to be a SEAL like nobody's business.
Yeah.
But these two little gadgets here weren't quite up to the eye standards. But they let me come out and do all of the PT runs with them, and all of the obstacle course, and the swims, and the surf zone, and all that kind of stuff. So,
cool. Water, cold water.
And they gave you CPR every 5 minutes, right?
Absolutely. Actually, they had to do that because they're the ones who wrapped me in bubble wrap and threw me out into the surf zone.
What year were you there?
89, 90.
Okay.
And that's where I was when I got commissioned. So as soon as I got commissioned as an officer, when you make the transition from enlisted to officer, you have to. They ship you out and they make you go someplace else so you won't be abused by your buddies.
Now, did you ever make it over to McPease?
I did make it to McPease quite a few times. I don't know how I made it back.
For those who do not know, right off of the base, right in Coronado, the SEALs hang out at a little pub called McPease. And let me just put it this way: you don't want to be like from out of town and go in there and try to cause any trouble. You don't. No, not a good place.
People who come into McPease, maybe thinking they're going to come in there and pick a fight. First of all, they have real bad judgment because it's a young guys that look like they're could
studs.
be defensive line for the New England Patriots, but doesn't usually work out that well. And in their favor.
Not a jihadi hangout either, too.
I was actually, and we'll have to talk about this offline sometime, but I spent a couple of days in Coronado on the base and on the way to Vietnam, actually, in 1996 with a guy by the name of Dick Marcinko. You know Dick?
I know of him. He's quite infamous in the special warfare and Navy communities. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a kind of a mixed what do you call it, reputation, but he was one of the SEALs, and then
He's one of the founding SEALs.
He wasn't. He wasn't
He was the first commander, the founding commanding officer of SEAL Team 6.
SEAL Team 6. Yeah, he was a little later than when the guys came out. He's a little younger than 62, the plank owners. And it was interesting. I was actually involved in telling a story, shooting a documentary about a small group of SEALs, him, Jim Watson, a couple of others, going back to Vietnam at their 30-year anniversary. And so we started the whole thing at the base, went all through the base, and spent the time with all those guys filming, doing all kinds of different things, wherever we could. Some places you couldn't shoot. Spent a little time at McPee's, and then we jumped on an airplane and went to Vietnam for a couple of weeks, which was completely insane. Before we normalized relations, and there with guys that still are fighting the war, some of them. It was interesting, but yeah, the SEAL Team 6 folks are amazing. All the SEALs are amazing. We're good friends with a SEAL Team 6 family of a warrior killed on August 6, 2011, Extortion 17, when the SEALs were shot down over Afghanistan. Remember that mess?
I do.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the current rules of engagement, which says the other guys get to use guns with bullets, our guys have to let them know that they're going to walk in front of them with no guns, with no bullets? What do you think about those kind of rules?
Well, I know that with the recent round of, well, if you can call it a round, the loss of, we're getting close to probably 80 guys now that we've lost in the last year and a half to those green on blue incidents, and I think it's absolute insanity. And again, this is where a lot of our GOs and our senior leaders, I don't want to say they forget their warrior ethos. They certainly don't, but they pile onto it so many other responsibilities that these, four-star generals like General Allen in Afghanistan, in addition to being quite the social butterfly, has, all of these guys wind up primarily, I believe it's through their education, their professional education as military officers, where, military officers are now taught through their staff colleges to be, soldier statesmen, responsible for managing all instruments of government power, and having a tendency to deprioritize what their jobs really are, and that is to fight war and defeat enemies and break their will. What we try to do now is we try to change their will, and they think that a part of their responsibility is to employ many, many other instruments of government power outside the toolkit available to traditionally to the military. And this is where you find them developing these crazy rules of engagement, where they believe they're going to win the hearts and minds of these people by showing them that soldiers and Marines walking around with weapons aren't there to do them any harm.
No, we basically have, and this is the Obama doctrine. I mean, Frank, we have been preaching this for years. The Obama doctrine, he believes that a strong military and a strong economy projects power and creates problems with other nations. Decrease the military capability, decrease the economic capability, spread the wealth out, cut the military back. You form some sort of equitable relationship where the United States is not a superpower, it's another power, and the world will be a safer place. It's an ideological position. He believes he's implemented it through his Caesars, his 100 Caesars that he has all around him, and and many of the folks that we work with, people that you can go read their names in Sharia, the Threat to America, believe that this is absolutely treasonous behavior, how he's handling the military. He has the United States military serving as the State Department, as diplomats, as opposed to people who kill and destroy the enemy. It's insane.
And again, this is something that transcends administrations. I will tell you that going back to 2001, when I was in U.S. Central Command headquarters, I was the SOCCENT intelligence liaison officer to U.S. Central Command when Operation Enduring Freedom was largely an air offensive where we were taking out targets in Tora Bora and Kandahar and stuff like that. And those engagements were being directed from Central Command headquarters in Tampa. We simply didn't have the forward deployed infrastructure to, direct those, do the targeting and the intelligence analysis and all that kind of stuff. So I remember standing in what we called the fusion cell at U.S. Central Command, where we did all of the sort of targeting against what we called high-value targets. And this is December of 2001, guys, and a message came in, a cable came in from the State Department. It was a joint DOD Department of State message directing our forces in Afghanistan and our efforts in Afghanistan in December of 2001 to begin now making a transition to prepare the battle space, and this, I'm almost quoting this from memory, to prepare the battle space for democratic elections in Afghanistan. This was in December of 2001. And I actually, when I first read it, I thought it was a joke. I thought my buddies,
Yeah, they're throwing some on you, yeah.
So, again, and this gets back to the new military culture. It's only exacerbated by President Obama because, he has this whole group of military officers who are now sort of trained and educated to be, again, these soldier statesmen. When they get into these countries and they become commanders of these AORs, they almost become more like governors than military commanders.
Yeah, we were on a freight train before, now on a rocket ship to it. Yeah, exactly.
And there's a piece of human nature, there's a piece of Americana, where even people who are intelligent in the know, you hope and you believe and you wish that at the level that all human beings have some sort of civility or have some sort of cognition, you hope and you wish and you pray that this thing, democracy, this kind of intangible thing, is something desired by all people, all men, all where, all times, but they simply don't have the opportunity because of the way the social structure may be in their country, maybe in a dictatorial regime. But break through that dictatorial regime and the fire of democracy burning in someone will manifest itself and they're all going to become like Americans. We wish that. That's a Western American construct. Fact of the matter is the Islamic jihadi mind repudiates democracy, repudiates that freedom, repudiates that. It goes against 1,400 years of Quranic teaching, of the Hadith, the Sunnah, of everything. And, Mohammed Pastavazul knows this the best of all people. And I read an early release. I was in a meeting in Washington, D.C. with a bunch of interesting people, and I read an early release of General Petraeus's Coin Doctrine Manual. And I tell you, I'm reading it going, man, this sounds like good stuff. This is great. Maybe he knows something I don't know. And that was 2007 or so. The Coin Doctrine, what do you think, Frank? I mean, the Coin Doctrine is a complete failure, the counterinsurgency doctrine of winning the hearts and minds of jihadis. How crazy is that?
I'll tell you, one of the first things that many of the Marines I know, with the units that deployed to Afghanistan in the sort of post-Obama, call it the Afghan surge, if you will. But one of the first things they did was they started downloading they completely just brushed aside or canned the counterinsurgency manual, and they started downloading copies of the guerrilla warfare manual from Vietnam.
Wow. Wow.
Which was a much more useful document to them in Afghanistan.
Let's see if I can find
Because
it.
you're,
See if you can find it.
and like you said, you cannot reconcile with people who believe that
Gorilla?
Warfare
there's
of Vietnam.
that they were handed all of the laws of humanity that were required via this person they believe was their great prophet, Muhammad. Now we come into their countries and we tell them, no, there's a better way to do this. What you do is you elect other men, you elect human beings or people, and they form these, this Republican form of government, representative form of government, and they make the laws. Imagine how that sounds to a person who's, are you kidding me? God came here 1,400 years ago, and he gave us, he gave us all the laws. And you're telling me that you believe that through your system of democracy, that men can create laws that stand superior to those of God? You have no idea how flammable that language is over there.
No, that's amazing, and I'm sure you work that out in your routines. The absurdity of believing that a person who's raised and thinking and living in this tribal situation and with all these obligations is going to go, yeah, I'll buy into that. Unbelievable.
Well, I had a theory way back when I heard about the coin strategy. I said, hey, I got a better strategy. When we take a plane load of C-130s, blanket all of Afghanistan, drop out the back a whole ton of Playboys and condoms, that'll do a lot more than that coin strategy will ever do.
Probably. Hey, Frank.
You go right next door to Pakistan, and you have, I believe, the highest number of porn hits in the world per capita is right out of Pakistan.
Exactly, because a lot of this comes with their frustration too, with their sexual frustration with women, because they cover them all up. So that's another.
Well, that's another subject. But Frank, let's weigh in. Let's have you weigh in on a critical geopolitical, geosecurity issue right now, and that is nothing. And we're here in Boca Raton. You ever get over to this side of the state?
I do. I occasionally get over to Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. Yeah.
All right, we're a little bit north of Fort Lauderdale, and in Boca, our signal goes from North Miami almost up to Orlando. It's really a pretty big signal.
Actually, it went all the way up to Sanford.
Your wife?
My wife's in Sanford. Yeah, she heard it all up in Sanford.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And in our listening areas, like 5 million people, and there's 500,000 Jewish people. And as you know, the United West, we do a lot of work with the Jewish community, and we do that because we view Israel as a national security partner. In fact, our theory is that Israel doesn't need America. America needs Israel in these dangerous days. Weigh in, Frank, on the role that Israel plays for the national security of the United States of America.
Well, I've been to Israel a few times, and I've actually been from one end of Israel to the next, by car, including down to their training range in the southern desert in Negev. And one of the things, I believe you guys have traveled to Israel, if I'm not mistaken, and having been to most of the other countries in the Middle East, including across North Africa, Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, people need to understand that Israel is literally an island of sanity in the middle of a sea of madness over there. I mean, I'm not saying that, of course, everybody, I will preface it, there are many wonderful people I've met in, Muslim countries in the Middle East. But across the board, overall, the prevailing worldview Israel literally is. You get to Israel after you sort of spent some time in some of the real vacation spots of the Muslim world, and you almost like go, oh my gosh, I feel, you feel like you're back home. You're in this vibrant little country that is perfectly free in the middle of all this. I mean, you have people who are, a lot of people don't realize, they think that everybody in Israel are a bunch of, right-wing warmongers.
Right.
When they get there is that you've got a right in Israel, you've got a left, you've got a very vibrant political debate. You might have a Muslim citizen in Israel, one of the Arab Muslims who actually lives in Israel, go to an Israeli court with a discrimination claim, saying he was discriminated against because he's a Muslim in the Israeli workplace. And I am here to tell you that, just like here, it seems insane, 9 times out of 10, a liberal Israeli judge or some Israeli judge will rule in favor of the Muslim minority. That would be unheard of in a Muslim country.
Right.
Absolutely unheard of.
Right.
Israel is the most important country to the United States, from, if nothing more than from a philosophical standpoint.
Yeah, I'll have to second that one up. Oh, I thought he's done.
One of the, I'll say to your listeners too is, and I've written about this on my website, frankwuko.com. I just wanted to see if I can do what Dick Morris does. So he does it much better than I do. Is plug my website while I'm in the middle of making a very poignant. I tried to sneak it by.
No.
We want you to plug
We want you to plug it. We want you to do well.
Frankwuko.com. Excuse me, my chair just automatically plunged. Now, one of the things that you will see when you're dealing with the Israelis, when you're in their country, that is mystifying, is you will find Israelis that are, not a lot, but you will find Israelis that are very sympathetic towards the Palestinians. You will find a much greater percentage of Israelis that are sympathetic towards that and want to see a peace than you will ever find next door in Egypt, or you will ever find in Gaza or in Jordan. Where universally the prevailing view is that they just all wish Israel would completely go away. So anybody who looks at Israel as the oppressor, as a woman who's actually being, her name is being bandied about as a potential successor to Susan Rice. Her last name is Powers. She's a Kennedy School professor at Harvard, friend of Barack Obama, who for years, your folks can YouTube it, has gone on PBS talk shows and whatnot and advocated for all of the funding for Israel to be diverted to the Palestinians and for a U.S. force to occupy Israel to prevent the Israelis from invading Palestine again. It's unbelievable. But anyway, what I would want to say to the listeners in your areas is taking all of this into account and several other things. I wrote about this on my website, an article about the Jewish vote for Obama. Complete mystery that 71% of the American Jewish population voted for the most hostile president in the history of this country since 1948 towards Israel.
No, amazing. All right, well, we're going to definitely, we only have a few minutes left, and we got one more question for you. We're going to have you back because the Israel thing, we really want to do a deep dive on that. Things are heating up in Israel, as you know. We were there, the United West, in February. We went on an intelligence briefing, went all over the country, phenomenal trip. Iran is getting frisky again. Syria's maybe got chemical weapons pointed toward Tel Aviv. We've got all kinds of things going on. So we'll have you back for that. But right now, the remaining few minutes, Mark, your question, tell Frank where we were today, and what do you have him weigh in on your thoughts with the brothers, the boys?
The Kazi brothers. We met Pasta Fazul for real today.
Yeah, right.
And you know what? What was weird about it is we're sitting in the courtroom, waiting for the Kazi brothers to come out.
There's their picture on Trento Vision.
Now, that's actually a pretty good representation of what they look like. And it was actually just a little bit more deadpan, a little bit more. And the man on the left, who's the older brother, Qazi 1.
The judge couldn't get his name right.
No. And then Shahira or whatever his name is, right? Comes in there and he's all disheveled, all humped over, all, just down looking, handcuffs on in like a tan outfit. And he's got these two lawyers and he's care representative behind him. And he's sitting there just, looking all disheveled, like beaten, right? Now his brother, on the other hand, Quasi 2, Quasi 2 is, he's fighting mad. He's ready to go after him. And so the Quasi 1, he's taken on the responsibility. He was the leader of it, and he had failed. And Quasi 2, he's still ready to fight. But just that, and Tom and I turned to each other and we're going, you realize we're about 5 feet away from guys who wanted to kill us? And they had no qualms about killing us.
Yeah, I mean, when you make that transition, the one that they would have made to become shaheed, martyrs, kill themselves for the cause of jihad, they have already mentally and spiritually killed themselves. I mean,
right.
They are looking forward to this. They're so excited. It's like getting on an airplane and flying home to Tom. You want to go meet with the paisans in Italy that you've heard of for all these years, and you're getting on the plane and you're flying back to Italy to meet family that you've been separated from for a couple generations, and there's going to be this big reunion. This is the excitement and feel that they look upon this with, and it's again thinking from the standpoint of Qazi 2.
Yeah.
He's probably pissed.
Yeah.
He's probably really upset that we ruined his date with paradise.
And speak about the honor quotient of the Islamic mindset, and how this is all circling around the honor concept. I mean, everything's about honor for them. And
well, a lot of cultural mix throughout the Muslim world that for Islamic purposes and then just straight cultural purposes based upon the region that they might come from. Yeah, I mean, especially Pashto folks from that region of Pakistan. The honor code among the Pashto is it's not just honor, it's one up. It's if I give you a dirty look, you're a Pashto, then you are honor bound for the sake of your pride and your family to give me a dirty look and slap me. If I slap you or hit you, you're honor bound to slap me, hit me, and then put me in the hospital or kill me. So,
and how much honor was lost by these guys getting captured because they've just their total honor, like you were saying earlier, is to honor not only themselves but their entire family, their God, and everything. And now that's been ripped away from them. And so,
but we can't answer it right now because we're going to have to wind things down.
Well, I do want to say one quick thing is. We did want to do a $5 bet by whoever stood up first inside the courtroom and yelled "Takbir" just to hear them go Allahu Akbar. Did you hear us?
You should have so that they could have heard you. You should have bet for a beer.
Yeah. No, well, the thing to follow. We'll be following this case among all the other stuff we're doing. One of the charges on the indictment is the handling and movement of weapons of mass destruction. So and there's very little being said about this. So
that's the weird thing.
Either there's nothing there and they're trying to make a case, or there could be something big and scary and they don't want it to come out to the public right now because it could create all kinds of chaos. But in any event, Frank Wuko, give the people your contact, and we got about 30 seconds left here.
Best one-stop shop. Then we're getting it cranked up again. We've had it down for some maintenance for a week or so. You see some new stuff popping up on frankwuko.com, all one word, WUCO. And they can also find me on Facebook. Just look up the name Frank Wuko, WUCO.
And what part of Italy is Wuko from?
It's from eastern Italy, in other words, Croatia.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Good.
Thanks, Frank.
Right across the Adriatic pond.
Yeah, not too far away. And
WFLA, 2 to 4 p.m.
2 to 4 p.m. on Sundays. Yes.
Sunday.
We're going to have Mohammed Pastavazul here to do a little answering the questions for the Southeast people
Right,
in
okay.
Florida. But right now, Frank, thank you very much for hanging with us. All these are available on TrentoVision.com. You can email your links out. You're a wonderful guy doing tremendous work, and we will stay in touch. If you need anything from us, you know where to get us.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Frank.
What you do.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye. It's Tom Trento, Mark, Mike, CJ, everybody. We're going away for the weekend, but guess what? We'll be back here Monday, 7, 8, 9, Monday the 10th. Monday 10th. See you then. Kenny, have a wonderful weekend.